So my name is Marie Oppeboen. I am Norwegian, hence the complicated surname. I suppose I prefer Marie. So I am a psychiatrist, currently working in the Midwest, and have done all my training in the Midwest. I'm a senior registrar for another 2 weeks, and then I'll be finished and hopefully a consultant psychiatrist then. So I regard myself as a survivor of having experienced some childhood traumas as well as later depression and anxiety, but also a survivor of having trained as a doctor and psychiatrist in Ireland. I nearly got out alive. I didn't escape to Australia just yet, but anyway. So in a couple of weeks I'll be unemployed and underdoled, so it's really worth it. Anyway, I'm here today. I brought down a few of the lads with us. I suppose I wouldn't be here probably if it wasn't for the likes of these guys. So I'll get back to introducing them later on. I'm just going to do a bit of talking first, and hopefully you guys will keep me on track. I know we're already a bit delayed, but I'll try my best. I suppose we've been asked to do, to talk a bit about co-production in the sense of kind of making the first steps and implementing. I suppose I've been involved in working in kind of recovery-oriented ways for a long time. I suppose a good number of years ago now. I was first introduced to the recovery principles and it was such a relief for me to sort of figure out that, God, what I'm doing is actually something. It is like, what I believe in, and, there are other people who also believe in these things and these approaches, and it's not just, I'm not on my own in it. And I suppose that's how I had felt for a long time, that what I was doing wasn't quite fitting the brief of what I seemed to be supposed to be doing in the, from a psychiatric point of view or from a training point of view. So that's, I suppose to mention as well, I'm also a family member of a brother who's struggled with addiction issues for many years, and I also have a sister who's eating disorder. So, they coped in that way. I just studied a lot and, tried to kill myself that way instead. Anyway, so I suppose I'm not going to go in too much into the National Recovery Framework and all the details of it, but the recovery principles, the number 2 is around the co-production, and I suppose I just wanted to highlight a few of the things that I've been involved in and do a few reflections on those experiences, and these guys will also kind of reflect on their experiences then afterwards. So, again, like I said, on an individual level, I suppose co-production starts, I suppose, there on just the, individually in clinic and seeing people and things like that, and working in that collaborative way. Also, I suppose the first chance I had to kind of step outside the sort of traditional doctor role of in-out clinic patients, here's the script, was really when myself and the addiction counsellor that I was working with in the mental health service in Nina, County Tipperary, him and I were frustrated over the lack of access to services for people and the lack of integrated care for people with addiction and mental health issues. So we started screening people and started this motivational group program, which we co-produced with the guys who wanted to be part of it. So anyways, in terms of co-facilitating a kind of a group setting, for me, that was the first chance I ever had to step outside, sit back, and not having to ask all the questions or, elicit symptoms or come up with a treatment plan, or, I really got the chance to just sit back and forced to listen. And that was I think the start of really sort of understanding and seeing both peer support in practice of people supporting each other within the group, and sort of removing my own importance, my own role in it, and seeing that people are actually progressing, getting a lot better, even just from supporting each other, and not from me giving them a script and coming back in 2 months' time and, oh, brilliant, tablets must be working really well. So, that was big for me. I later also then became involved in the ARIES project, which is the recovery educational service that we developed in the Midwest. So I was involved in both the co-production of the workshops and co-facilitation, and I was also on the steering group. But I suppose one of the big things that I experienced then was, I suppose, going out as a professional in that kind of setting. You found yourself becoming the sort of representation of services, and people are angry, and you really felt it, and that was quite challenging, I found, because people have the right to be angry, and as the person working within the services, you become the sort of front and the easy target for that, which is understandable. But I found that when you just take your time and listen and validate people's concerns and frustrations, it's much easier to just, to roll with that resistance and then kind of have an actual fruitful conversation about learning on both sides of the fence. And I found that a lot of people then started to understand what it's like working, in this highly pressured environment, and that is not as easy as well. So it was good learning both ways. I've also been involved in the Refocus Committee, which is stands for Recovery Experience Forum of Carers and Users of Services. It's a national committee that is in the College of Psychiatrists of Ireland, which is our formal training body. And they work to sort of improve the relationships between psychiatrists and service users and family members. And we also do work to influence the training of psychiatrists in Ireland at the moment, and they're doing fantastic work, and hopefully like that the college is committed to a recovery-oriented approach. So there'll be more and more influence on that training level, which I think is greatly needed for psychiatrists. So, like I said, the work that I did with the addiction counsellor in Nina is this guy here, Donny Ryan. I know he is from your street, Catherine. Everyone comes out of Thurles, all the good people. Anyway, so like that motivational group program was very much the start of what we call a participatory action research project. So because we wanted to do something good. We wanted to do it right and proper to make sure that it was documented that this was good, because we knew it was. So I suppose this kind of research is very much focused on action and involvement and creating real change as you go along, but also framing it in a proper way, in a research type of a way, which gives it a bit more structure. And so we, our project was initially called the No Wrong Door, was trying to improve access and that. But we later then had focus groups of people with mental health and addiction issues in the North Tipperary region. And as a result of that, one of our service users, Breda here, she couldn't be here today, but she wanted to be involved in terms of data analysis and wanted to get some more training in becoming a peer researcher. So we've been to a few conferences, and this was at a UL conference last year on patients and public and patient involvement in research. So, this project has kind of grown, because that's the nature of this kind of research. It sort of grows into cycles and improving or moving forward as we go along. And it now consists of an international research network of these lads here, particularly. Is there a cursor there? Can you see these? Yeah. So these are our academic partners. Some of you might recognize this fella. That's Lee McGowan in DCU. We've also, this guy is called Larry Davidson. He's a professor in psychiatry in Yale School of Medicine. And this fellow at the bottom is Uttar Ness. He's a professor in the mental health in the University of Norway, which is where I'm from, obviously. So they have expertise in a lot of experience in the recovery and dual diagnosis, and also participatory action research. So anyway, so this project is, I suppose, continuing to move along. And what happened when we did these focus groups was that the outcome of that was that people wanted to do something. People wanted to get involved. People wanted to improve things and be part of improving things and how we respond to mental health and addiction in our region. Because I suppose here you seem to, in this region, this area, that you've come a long way compared to maybe where we are at in CHO3. But we have very little community services for people with addiction, and we're lucky to have that addiction counsellor within the mental health service. But anyway, we decided, well, the whole group decided that they wanted to step outside and start meeting outside and figure out what can we do and get together, get our heads together. So we established a community group called Carmha. We named it that as an acronym for Connection and Recovery in Mental Health and Addiction. So I suppose when we started off, we were kind of trying to figure out what we're going to do. These guys are all part of it. We started to, we formalised and developed a steering group, and Antoinette here is the secretary, Cahill is the co-secretary, and Dimpne is here is also on the steering group. So I suppose we've done a lot of things already, even in the last year. We started in May of last year, and I suppose the guys wanted to do something to raise awareness in our local area, so they co-produced this awareness night, which was held in the town hall in Nina. And it was an amazingly successful night. We didn't know what to expect and how many people would come. We wanted it to be a free event. The guys organised these sort of celebrities. I'm Norwegian, so I'm not that into the GA and all that, but they tell me that John Lahy and Karen Carey are fairly up there. Anyways, they have their own recovery experiences, and they share with us on the night. And some of the people, Hannah Jones couldn't be here today. She was there on the night sharing her recovery story. It was a very emotional night, and we had, the place was fully packed out with over 200 people present. And we had the local district judge, we had probation officers, sergeants and superintendents of the Gardaí. We had social workers, we had obviously family members and people using services. We had a family who'd only just a week prior been bereaved by suicide because of addiction and mental health issues. So it was just a really, really powerful night. And we had met sort of on a weekly basis prior to that, organising it, and it was, I think, very successful. And I think it's amazing what we managed to achieve in a very short period of time, actually organising it. So since then, the whole thing grew further again, because we found that so many people were coming up to us afterwards and contacting us afterwards and saying, what can we do? How can we be involved? So we ended up realising that we probably need to take it a step further as well, and ended up establishing a non-profit organisation called Carmha Ireland. And we got a board together. Some of you might recognise Laura Thompson here. She's only just retired as a social worker from the mental health service for years. She was involved in the National Larry as well. And then we have local counsellor, we have solicitor there. There's a few people missing, obviously, from this picture. Antoinette is there, grinning. Antoinette is also our company secretary, and as well as one of the directors. We have another service user who's also one of the directors, and he's also this treasurer. And there's a GP involved as well, and Liam McGowan also comes to our board meetings at times. Anyway, so that's it. I suppose where we're at now is that we have secured a building in the heart of Neenah town, and basically we are working towards being able to provide very much co-produced and co-delivered services under sort of the same roof in Neenah for people with addiction and mental health issues. So a variety of support services ranging from peer support alongside professional support. And we also recognise through the focus groups that we've done that peer support is really good, and it works a lot of times, but sometimes it's really good to have professionals supporting the peer support, and that we're all kind of helping and supporting each other. So I suppose that's where we're at, and hoping to further develop. We're going to be meeting with the junior minister daily there in a couple of weeks' time. Not that he'd probably do much, but we'll flag the case, and we'll bring in a few of our own as well, a few of the other ones along with that as well, to make sure that people can at least try and have a voice, on that level too. So in terms of, I know we've probably gone way over now, but in terms of kind of reflections in terms of everything we've done in co-produced way, I think one of the, that's all gone missing, has it? Okay, I don't know, the slides are just, the contents have gone missing. Anyway, that's strange. So I suppose just one of the main things is around time. I think in terms of, if there's anything we need to be successful in implementing a recovery framework is about allowing time. And I think, working within the services, there is that tendency of meeting targets and getting somewhere quick, and we want to create this really great thing, and it needs to be done by that time, so we need to just get there and be productive. But I suppose, my experience, that really doesn't work. It's about trying to sit back and allow plenty of time, because there is that, I suppose, like we said earlier, value in the journey of getting there as well. And there's so much learning in that. And I suppose with that time comes the other important value is that of listening. And my experience is that when you think you've listened enough, you need to just listen a little bit more, and try and remove your own kind of sense of importance. Because we all are trained in the way that we want to, we've learned a lot in our training, and we want to, we've read a lot, and we've, we want to use that, and I suppose it's about trying to remove our intentions a little bit from the process, and saying, look, it doesn't actually matter what I think here right now. The main thing is to listen first, and you might get your points across at a later time. But I think that is, in terms of building relationships, building connections with people, you really, that needs to be the first step. The other thing, I suppose, in terms of building relations, I suppose in that comes trust. And I think, from my experience, people are quite distrustful of professionals, and suspicious that, what are your intentions, why are you doing this? And, and there is that bit, that tension. So in terms of building trust, I think there is that, honesty and obviously transparency, making sure you inform everybody at every stage of what's going on. I've experienced quite a lot, in the work we've done with Carmha, that I might be so busy, like running around from place to place or having lots and lots on my mind of what to do, and suddenly I have kind of forgotten to keep informing people or communicate what I was doing, for example. And then people might, get suspicious and feel excluded, and my intentions weren't bad. They were, but I think as much as you can communicate as much as possible of every step of the way. And even that in the beginning, I hadn't got a clue what we were doing, and people were confused, and I was confused. We didn't really know what we were doing. So there was that sense of everybody kind of being a little bit out there on the deep end. But like that, it's okay to just be honest about that and kind of say, well, we're not 100% sure where we're going with this, but we're going to try and figure it out together. And it kind of gradually, we've moved along together as well. So, but like obviously one of the major difficulties is obviously the power imbalance that exists between us, and I suppose in particular between doctors and also in terms of managers and things like that. It is hard to remove that barrier, and it takes active work to try and level power imbalances. I find like I'm quite passionate about this notion called trauma-informed care. I don't know if people are familiar with it, but it's very much in line with the recovery approach, and it's around recognizing that people come with their various traumas, and oftentimes what we do in our services, can be regarded as quite coercive and can kind of trigger and re-traumatize people. So it's about being aware of that, and I suppose as doctors we're supposed to, in terms of the Hippocratic Oath, and first do no harm. And I think oftentimes it's not necessarily a given that we don't first do no harm. It's a lot of times we do harm. So that's like definitely trauma-informed care is a great way of starting to reduce those barriers between us. So, but like that, I had a good few slides, but I'm going to hand it over in terms of further reflections to the rest of these guys. So up first is Cathal, and I know Cathal has been involved in co-production long before me, so he has a lot of experience to bring to the table. And Dimpna as well as a family member, and Antoinette. And I just want to say one thing though, in terms of learning and doing co-production. I think as professionals we have to take risks and believe in people and be flexible and give people chances and opportunities. And I think Antoinette, I was your psychiatrist for a while, and I just saw you as someone who wasn't able to function at that time. And I think coming in and out of a clinic, I would have never really known who you are and what you're capable of had we not, gotten involved outside of that setting. And I only found out not so long ago that Antoinette is like the octo champ of Countdown. Do you know the Countdown? And she's regarded as one of the best female contestant of Countdown since Dot of the programme. So, do you know, that's pretty amazing and something she would have never really volunteered and I would have never heard of. So, fair play. Thanks a million.
Hi. My name is Cathal. I'll just tell you a little bit about my history. I've been attending the mental health services in Nina since 2000. Initially I was being treated for clinical depression by my GP, and when there was no improvement in my mental health, I was referred on to the psychiatrist in the mental health services. Down through the years there have been many different diagnoses ranging from depression, through bipolar to paranoid schizophrenia in 2008 and treated accordingly with many, many different medications. In my history, there have been a lot of addiction issues as well. Some of them a cause of and some a result of the mental and emotional issues, ranging from a chronic poker machine addiction, which was full-blown at the age of 16, the worst of all my addiction issues, through drinking drugs like hash and ecstasy and heroin, speed and Valium, which was probably the second worst of my addictions. And so I was referred to the addiction counsellor, and with his help and working my part, I can say thankfully that's all behind me, and it's good to say now I'm not playing poker machines and drug-free. My experience of co-production started many years ago when, because of a vision for change, it was proposed to open a peer-led peer support centre in Nina. We called it Ars Fallon, which means Centre of Wellbeing. I became involved in working beside those of us with self-experience from a mental health professional point of view, where a former nurse who was working with the Mental Health Association at the time and the principal social worker with the mental health services in Nina. One of the first jobs myself and another service user were given was to organise a week of training entitled Intentional Peer Support. So with our social workers' help, we sent emails, made phone calls, organised a hotel, advertised it, etc. The week turned out to be a great success, with over 30 people attending every day, and it felt good to be part of something that helped me and others to begin to talk about recovery, which was the new buzzword at the time. And so, Ars Fallon was born. We secured a house, painted it, liaised with the landlord to change the windows and so on. We had committee meetings regularly, at which we organised the running of the house, putting in our policy and procedures, advertising the centre, and talked about how to get peer support groups to host their meetings in Ars Fallon. We did fundraising and participated in social activities together. It felt good to be heard and valued, especially when asked, "What do you think?" or given a praise for a job well done. It gave me a sense of purpose and self-worth. I was chuffed when I was proposed by a service user and seconded by a mental health professional to be chairman of the committee. I became secretary for a spell, and while challenging, it gave great fulfilment and again a sense of purpose and value. I wasn't getting paid for it. What I got from it was more than money could ever give. I had something to do. I had responsibilities and focus. Compliments like best secretary ever and most comprehensive minutes taken that I still get to this day bring a kind of bashful smile to my face and a kind of glow inside. I was included. I had something to do that wasn't knocking at a drug dealer's door, going into a pub or sitting in a casino all day. I was respected and valued by service users and mental professionals alike, all working together for the greater good and the benefit of our community. I could look forward to seeing the psychiatrist and I could say to the addiction counsellor, "Thank you, mission accomplished." The only challenge to co-production I experienced was that the democratic process was usurped by two committee members, one of them a mental health professional, when a move concerning the organisation that most were in favour of and should have been put to a vote wasn't, and because of this we lost invaluable members of the committee and the centre. Being involved with the co-production of Ars Fallon opened the door to new contacts, new opportunities and new possibilities. I met the RDO for the Midwest for Shine and started working with them as a facilitator and trainer. I linked in with Ian, that's the Irish Advocacy Network, and did the training to be a peer advocate and lots more courses. Most recently, I'm delighted to be involved with Carmha. Again, I'm working in another example of co-production. Again, there's no end to what we can achieve together as equals, each of us bringing our unique strengths and experience to the fray. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Tiffany Cavanaugh, and I'm the mother of a 33-year-old woman who has addiction and mental health issues. I'd like to take a moment to introduce my daughter. Her name is Jennifer. I'd like to remember her smiles and the hugs and kisses of my little girl. I remember her plans, her hopes, her dreams, even now when she doesn't. She says it's not my fault, I did nothing wrong. Others say it's a disease, they say to be strong. There are no fundraisers for this disease, only tears and the dreaded knock at the door, the fear of answering an unknown phone number. And the worst is not being able to help your own child. Carmha gives me hope for her future. It empowers me as a parent. I now feel I am actively engaging with my daughter's recovery. Carmha is a unique service which addresses all the needs of the service user under one roof. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Antoinette. I'm 34 years old. I've been dealing with mental health issues since my early teens. Depression and anxiety were a huge problem, but I couldn't bear to face it or let anyone in because I thought no one would ever understand. I coped through self-harm. It brought the pain inside out, and I didn't have to focus on the pain inside for a while. I spent so long feeling suicidal and attempting suicide that it became who I was. There was always a constant battle in my head. At times I just couldn't fight it anymore. I couldn't look down the barrel of another 50 or 60 years of it. I suffered in silence for a long time. I suppose I stigmatized myself, lived in denial. I did anything but admit I had problems, anything to escape those problems. My escape became alcohol. I could feel everything and nothing when I drank. Life was great for a few hours or days. I just couldn't see how much worse it was making the rest of the time. It became my go-to to deal with or avoid dealing with every emotion. I craved that escape all the time. I couldn't see the possibility of enjoyment in anything else, even with my kids. I was just muddling through till the next binging session. I've allowed alcohol and mental health issues to hold me back in every aspect of my life and stop me reaching my potential, squandered every opportunity. I finally admitted I couldn't go it alone anymore in my early 30s. I got so lucky to meet Marie and our addiction counsellor, Donnie. They've done more for me than I ever thought possible. I joined Carmha to support them because they are so deserving of it. I was shaking at every meeting, afraid to even be there, but they supported me and made me the secretary of the community group, and my confidence grew little by little. And then they asked me to sit on the board of directors and be the company secretary. Something changed in my mind that day. I was at a point where I felt completely useless, that I'd never make anything of myself, but yet I couldn't bring myself to do anything about it. Suddenly I was taking on responsibility and coping with it and learning. That's given me something I can't even put words on. I love working alongside them and feeling part of something good, a sense of belonging and capability. Life has the prospect of being exciting again. I've gone through some dark times again lately, times that before I know would have drove me back to isolate and feel like the dark cloud was back to stay and the weight would never lift. Without Carmha, I know I would have blocked it all out again with alcohol. But when I don't have the strength to do it for myself, I do it for them. The positive focus has given me hope, and I know I'll come out the other side again. To have this amazing group of people in my life has given me the strength and courage that I never thought I could find in the face of mental health and addiction issues. Carmha to me represents change and hope, a different approach that I envisage doing so much good, working together with mutual respect and camaraderie. To be instrumental in its creation has already been such a positive thing. I can't imagine how much more it's going to do once it reaches fruition. It's already improving lives within our community, and the best is definitely yet to come. Thank you.